Ever feel like you need, I don't know, a secret decoder ring just to figure out your grocery bill or why you can't sleep? For heathen, then you can act your higher.
Yeah. You're definitely not the only one feeling that way.
Well, welcome to the deep dive.
Okay.
This is where we try to cut through all that noise and bring you the info that's the blame. Today, we're digging into a whole bunch of recent news and research, all pulled together by the Consumers.App podcast for today, May 20th, 2025.
Exactly. And we've got a really interesting mix for you. We'll be talking about some big economic shifts happening right now, how the way we shop is changing again.
Oh, yeah.
And even some surprising science about our own bodies and well-being. The goal, like you said, is to deliver the insights that actually help you navigate things.
Okay, let's jump right in. There's this news about a credit rating downgrade for a country's economy. Consumers.App flagged this from ABC News via MSN.com. So maybe start simple. What does a downgrade like that actually signal?
Okay, think of it like this. Moody's, a big rating agency, basically says, we're a bit more worried about this country's ability to pay back its debts.
Right.
And Consumers Research points out that immediately makes it more expensive for that government to borrow money. It signals higher risk.
And we're seeing the effects already, right? Consumers Research mentioned a temporary spike in U.S. Treasury bond yields. The 30-year hit 5.01%.
Yeah, briefly. It shows how the market reacts. Now, for folks not watching bonds daily, it works like a seesaw. Yields are the return investors get. Prices are what the bonds cost.
Okay.
When the rating goes down, investors think, okay, this is riskier. So to take on that risk, they want a higher return, a higher yield.
Makes sense.
That demand for higher yields pushes the price of existing bonds down. So yeah, the downgrade news caused some selling, prices dipped, yields went up, makes future borrowing costlier.
Got it. So higher risk, higher borrowing price tag for the government. But it seems like the stock market reaction was different. Consumers Research pointed that out.
Yeah, that's the interesting bit. There's academic research from Jafeth Torserjev at Birmingham Newman University suggesting that historically, a U.S. sovereign downgrade didn't actually shake the stock market that much.
Really? Even big names?
Looked at Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, the S&P 500. The equity market seemed kind of resilient to that specific news, even when the bond market reacted.
Huh. So government borrowing gets pricier, but my Apple stock might be okay. That's unexpected.
It often is. And, digging deeper into what moves those treasury yields, other research highlights the Fed funds rate. That's the rate banks charge each other overnight.
Right, set by the Fed.
That has a strong pull on short-term yields.
Yeah.
And inflation, that tends to affect the longer-term yields more moderately. So it's a mix of Fed policy and inflation expectations.
Okay, back to the government's higher borrowing costs.
Right.
Consumers Research mentioned this could eventually hit us, the consumers, like higher loan rates.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect. If it costs the government more to borrow, it can raise funding costs for banks. And banks, well, they might pass those costs on to us. Think higher interest on car loans, mortgages, personal loans. It can definitely squeeze household budgets.
Interesting. And on a slightly different angle, Consumers Research also found some research about municipal bonds. Something about government guarantees boosting their ratings.
Yeah, it suggests that even if a local government seems a bit riskier on its own, if investors feel there's an implicit backing from a higher level of government.
Like a safety net.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That perception can make investors more comfortable, leading to better credit ratings and lower borrowing costs for those towns or cities, especially in less developed areas. It's about confidence.
Okay, let's talk about those borrowing costs hitting closer to home. CBS News, via MSN.com, is reporting mortgage rates are back over 7% after this Moody's downgrade. Consumers Research highlighted this too. That feels pretty immediate for homebuyers.
Oh, absolutely. Consumers Research emphasizes this jump in 2024 directly hikes up the monthly cost of buying. It makes affordability even tougher in what's already a challenging market. It's a direct result of investors wanting that higher return because they perceive more economic uncertainty.
And what about people with adjustable rate mortgages, ARMs? How does this volatility affect them?
Well, ARMs, as Consumers Research explains, basically shift that interest rate risk onto the borrower.
Right, you might start lower, but
But if market rates go up, like now, your payments can jump significantly. That can cause real financial strain. The lender is protected, but the borrower bears the risk of rising rates.
And it's not just people looking to buy. Consumers Research mentioned a 2024 study, the Mortgage Cash Flow Channel. What did that find about current homeowners?
Yeah, that study showed that when mortgage costs go up for existing homeowners, maybe they're ARM adjusted or they refinance at a higher rate, It actually leads to them spending less overall.
Less spending across the board.
Especially for middle and lower income households. Housing takes up a bigger chunk of their budget, so when that cost rises, they cut back elsewhere. It dampens the broader economy.
So, fascinating. The stock market study showed limited impact, but housing and consumer spending feel it much more directly. Shows how different parts react, doesn't it?
Exactly. And Consumers Research also pointed to a 2022 study, mortgage rate adjusted home prices, which really drove home how much mortgage rates influence actual home prices. Higher rates mean higher purchasing costs, which tends to cool down price growth.
So given these rising rates and debt concerns, what can policymakers actually do?
Well, analysis noted by Consumers Research really points to fiscal policy. That means managing government spending and taxes strategically.
Trying to keep the debt manageable.
Right, controlling the national debt relative to the economy's size, the debt to GDP ratio. It's one tool they have to try and lessen the blow of higher interest rates.
And just to circle back, Consumers Research reiterated that 2024 data shows these rising mortgage rates hit lower income folks hardest, possibly worsening inequality.
Absolutely. It's not just abstract economics. It has real and uneven impacts on people's financial situations and their ability to build wealth.
Okay, let's shift gears. Retirement planning. It's on everyone's mind. USA Today is reporting that the full retirement age for Social Security, well, it's not the same for everyone. Consumers Research added some context here. What decides your FRA?
Right. So the FRA, as Consumers Research clarifies, depends entirely on your birth year. If you were born 1954 or earlier, it's 66.
Okay.
Then, for folks born between 55 and 59, it creeps up gradually. And if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67.
Why the increase?
It was legislated quite a while back, mainly to help shore up Social Security's long-term finances.
And when you actually start taking benefits, makes a big difference to your monthly check, right? Consumers Research explained the early versus late claiming impact.
Huge difference. You can start as early as 62, but if you claim before your FRA, your benefit is permanently reduced.
Permanently? Ouch.
Yeah. But if you can wait past your FRA up to age 70, your benefit amount actually increases each year you delay, thanks to delayed retirement credits. It's a major financial decision.
So what drove those FRA increases in the first place? It wasn't always 67.
The main reasons, outlined by Consumers Research, are pretty straightforward. People are living longer, which is great, but means benefits are paid out longer.
Right.
Then you have the huge baby boomer generation retiring, and birth rates have been lower, meaning fewer workers paying into the system per retiree. So raising the FRA was one way to try and balance the books over the long haul.
And speaking of balancing the books, there are some pretty stark projections out there if things don't change. Consumers Research mentioned the OASI Trust Fund.
Yes, the projections are rosy. The main trust fund for retirement benefits, OASI, is currently projected to run low, potentially around 2033.
And then what?
Well, if Congress doesn't act before then, the system would only be able to pay out what it takes in through taxes each year. Estimates suggest that might only cover about 77% of scheduled benefits starting around 2035. So potential automatic cuts unless changes are made.
It's interesting to see how other countries are handling similar issues. Consumers Research mentioned Brazil and Japan.
Yeah, lots of countries face aging populations. Brazil used a Social Security factor linked to life expectancy. Japan has adjusted its pension age and healthcare contributions.
So different tweaks to the system.
Exactly. Everyone's trying to figure out how to keep these safety nets sustainable while dealing with the economic reality of more older people and fewer younger workers.
And does the research show if these changes, like raising retirement ages, actually work, or what the impact is?
Well, some research noted by Consumers Research suggests it can help overall economic well-being. Studies in Japan, for instance, indicated that raising the retirement age alongside other reforms could actually benefit the working age population too.
How so?
Potentially through ensuring the system remains funded without excessively high taxes. And research in Brazil suggested using better, more current mortality data could lead to fairer benefit amounts.
It's not just financial either. Consumers Research found research from China showing that getting pension benefits actually improved older adults' health.
That's right. A study on their rural pension scheme found links between receiving benefits and better self-reported health, better mobility, even things like better eyesight.
Wow.
And also healthier behaviors, less drinking and smoking, better sleep. It really shows how financial security and health are intertwined, especially later in life.
Okay, let's switch from long-term planning to daily needs. Groceries. Yahoo News is looking at how grocery store apps are changing how we shop. Consumers Research added some analysis. These apps feel like they're everywhere now.
Oh, absolutely. Apps like Instacart, Zepto, they've really shaken up grocery shopping, as Consumers Research points out. The convenience is huge, ordering online from tons of stores.
Yeah, Instacart partners with so many retailers.
Thousands. And they reach a huge portion of SNF households, too, which is significant. Then you have companies like Zepto in India focusing on superfast delivery. It's about access, selection, and often digital savings, too.
And it's not just about making it easy for us. Consumers Research mentioned some pretty high-tech stuff happening behind the scenes, like vision-based object detection. What's that?
Yeah, it's quite futuristic. Research is looking into using cameras and AI in our homes to automatically track groceries.
Like, my fridge knows I'm out of milk.
Potentially. Imagine it tracking what's in your pantry, predicting when you'll run out, maybe even automating reordering. It's all about streamlining household management.
The pandemic definitely pushed online grocery forward. How did that sudden surge change things for the companies, according to Consumers Research?
That huge demand forced them to adapt quickly. They started using more dynamic pricing, changing prices based on demand.
Like surge pricing for groceries.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And more sophisticated marketing, using advanced data analysis like clustering methods to group products based on price and sales patterns. It helped them manage inventory and target offers better.
Speaking of offers, Consumers Research says there are real savings for users, right? Digital coupons, gas discounts.
Definitely tangible benefits. Instacart, for instance, works with thousands of brands on digital coupons right in the app. Data suggests active users save time and money. And the competition between retailers online is driving more deals for us.
And those clustering methods you mentioned, Consumers Research said they help the companies too, not just us.
Right. By analyzing pricing and sales, they figure out which items are often bought together or which are really price sensitive. This helps them stock their local warehouses smarter, position products better in the app, and fine-tune prices to stay competitive but also profitable.
Delivering all those groceries efficiently must be a nightmare logistically. How do they manage?
Consumers Research points to complex computational tools. Algorithms optimize delivery routes, factoring in traffic, delivery times, order density, and real-time scheduling systems dispatch drivers efficiently. It's all technology aimed at cutting costs and keeping deliveries reliable.
But with all the personalized offers and tracking, Consumers Research brings up privacy and how these coupons influence us.
Yeah, digital coupons are designed to nudge behavior, obviously.
Yeah.
That personalization relies on collecting and analyzing our shopping data.
Right.
And there's definitely a fine line, research suggests, between helpful recommendations and, well, being intrusive. Retailers need transparency about data use and have to be mindful of ethical boundaries.
Okay, moving from the pantry to the vanity. Forbes is talking about social commerce and beauty retail. Consumers Research helps break this down. This isn't just plain old online shopping, is it?
No, it's a step further. Social commerce weaves shopping right into social media platforms. You see a product from an influencer, read reviews, watch tutorials, and buy it all without leaving the app.
Like Instagram checkout or TikTok shop.
Exactly. And Consumers Research notes it often uses tech like augmented reality virtual try-ons for makeup and personalized recommendations based on your social feed. It makes it more interactive, more social.
Consumers Research mentioned it's particularly effective in reaching communities maybe missed by traditional retail, citing Pinduoduo in China. How does that work?
Research suggests platforms like that often tap into existing social networks and group buying habits. It can make online shopping feel more accessible, maybe less intimidating, especially for things like beauty products, lowering the tech adoption barrier.
Now, the beauty industry, it's focused on looks, but there are ingredient concerns. Consumers Research mentioned risks with synthetics and how regulations differ.
That's a really important point. Things like PFAS, formaldehyde releasers found in some cosmetics, have raised health flags.
Right.
In the U.S., as Consumers Research explains, the FDA monitors and requires labeling, but there's no mandatory pre-market approval like for drugs. The EU, however, is generally much stricter, banning or restricting more substances and demanding more safety data before products hit shelves.
It feels like there's a push for cleaner ingredients, though. Consumers Research mentioned tech helping identify safer options.
Yes, there's new tech that looks at ingredients as interconnected data. It helps analyze safety profiles more thoroughly.
So helping brands and consumers make better choices.
That's the idea. Finding ingredients that are effective, but also safe, and maybe more ethically sourced, too.
And the history here matters, right? Consumers research said past problems with dangerous ingredients shape today's rules.
Oh, definitely. Cosmetics used to contain things like lead, mercury.
Yeah.
Truly harmful stuff. The awful health effects from those really pushed the development of modern regulations focused on transparency and safety testing. Lessons learned, hopefully.
So, with consumers wanting safer stuff, what does that mean for the huge beauty industry economically?
It's a massive market, as consumers research highlights. And this demand for organic, natural, clean beauty is creating huge opportunities for brands that focus on that.
Pushing bigger companies to change, too.
Absolutely. They're investing more in R&D, reformulating products. We'll likely see continued growth in that safer cosmetics segment, driven by both regulations and us, the consumers, being more aware.
Okay, let's pivot to personal well-being. Real Clear Science is asking if diet can mimic those popular GLP-1 drugs. Consumers research has some practical thoughts. First up, what is GLP-1 for anyone unsure?
Okay, so GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, it's a hormone your gut naturally makes when you eat.
No, naturally.
Yeah. And consumers research explains it does several key things. Helps regulate insulin, suppresses another hormone called glucagon, which raises blood sugar, and slows down how fast your stomach empties.
So it helps with blood sugar and makes you feel full.
Exactly. That's why it's the target for those newer drugs for type 2 diabetes and weight management. They mimic this natural hormone.
So if our bodies make it, can we boost it naturally through what we eat?
Yes, absolutely. Consumers research outlines several dietary strategies, things like eating enough protein, getting plenty of fermentable fiber, think of legumes, oats, fruits.
The good stuff.
Healthy fats are important too. Also, eating smaller, more frequent meals might help, and definitely focusing on whole, unprocessed foods. These things support your body's own GLP-1 production.
And do the official dietary guidelines support this kind of eating for metabolic health?
They do. Guidelines from the U.S. and WHO consistently recommend balanced diets rich in fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats. As consumers research notes, this naturally supports metabolic function, including healthy GLP-1 levels. They also stress limiting processed foods, added sugars, unhealthy fats.
Consumers research also mentioned comparing dietary restriction to these GLP-1 drugs, similarities and effects.
Yeah, some emerging research suggests both cutting calories intentionally and using these GLP-1 drugs can improve metabolic health and maybe even extend health span, how long we live in good health. They seem to tap into similar biological pathways related to nutrient sensing, insulin response, inflammation. So different methods, diet versus drugs, but maybe some shared benefits for fighting age-related diseases.
For vegetarians or plant-based eaters, consumers research highlighted some specific foods.
Yeah, things like immature lima beans, mushrooms, and just a wide variety of fruits and vegetables are great. They provide a good mix of nutrients, fiber, everything needed to support metabolic balance and that natural hormone production.
And technology is even getting involved. Consumers research mentioned AI apps that analyze pictures of food.
Pretty cool, right? Apps like DPF Nutrition, Nutrivision. They use AI to estimate the nutritional content from a photo you take.
Wow, instant feedback.
Exactly. Helps you make more informed choices towards that balanced diet we're talking about, which helps your metabolism.
Lastly here, consumers research warned against nutritionism focusing too much on single nutrients, emphasizing whole foods instead.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in, is this high in vitamin C, or does it have enough omega-3s? But whole foods are complex. They have fiber, micronutrients, phytochemicals, all working together.
The sum is greater than the parts.
Kind of. Relying on whole foods generally aligns better with how our bodies work, including hormone regulation like GLP-1, than just focusing on isolated nutrients or supplements. Most experts really push that whole food approach.
Sticking with nutrients, Health on MSN.com is asking, how much protein do we really need? Consumers research gives us the RDA breakdown. What are the general numbers?
Okay, so the RDA, recommended daily allowance, varies. For most healthy adults, consumers research says it's about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily.
0.8 per kilogram.
But needs are higher for kids, teens, pregnant or breastfeeding women, and also older adults. They might need a bit more, maybe 1.0 to 1.2 gigograms to help keep muscle and bone strong.
What about active people trying to build muscle or lose fat?
Yeah, for them, research suggests higher protein is helpful, especially with resistance training, often recommended in the range of 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilogram per day.
That's quite a bit more.
It is. The exact amount depends on your training, goals, and overall diet.
And it's not just the amount, right? Consumers research mentioned protein quality amino acids?
Absolutely critical. Protein quality is about getting all 9 essential amino acids, the ones our body can't make.
We have to eat them.
Exactly. Eating a variety of protein sources helps ensure you get the full set needed for everything from tissue repair to immune function to making hormones.
Good news for plant-based eaters. Consumers research confirms you can get enough protein without obsessively combining foods at every meal, like people used to think.
That's right. If your plant-based diet is well-planned, includes diverse sources like legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains throughout the day, you'll likely get all the essential amino acids. The key is variety and enough overall calories.
And protein isn't just for muscles. Consumers research mentioned bone health, too, especially for older folks.
Yes, protein is a key part of bone structure. Getting enough protein, along with calcium and vitamin D, helps maintain bone density as we age.
Reducing fracture risk.
Exactly. There's good evidence supporting moderate to higher protein for bone health in older adults.
And finally, pregnancy. Protein needs jump then, too. Consumers research mentioned why it's so important.
Definitely. Protein demand goes way up to support the baby's growth, the placenta, the mother's own body changes. Getting enough, around 1.1 kilogram daily during pregnancy, is vital for healthy birth outcomes.
All right, let's wrap up our deep dive with something absolutely fundamental. Sleep. The Los Angeles Times is asking how much is enough. Consumers research has insights. What are the general sleep recommendations?
Well, the consensus, highlighted by Consumers Research, is most adults need about 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night.
7 to 9 for adults.
Teens need more, like 8 to 10 hours. And school-age kids generally need 9 to 11 hours. These aren't just random numbers. They're based on a ton of research about sleep's role in, well, everything.
We all know feeling tired after a bad night, but Consumers Research mentions serious long-term health risks from chronic lack of sleep.
Oh, yeah. Not getting enough sleep consistently is linked to a higher risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, plus cognitive decline, mood problems like depression, and a weaker immune system. It really messes with your metabolic and immune functions over time. It's crucial for preventing chronic disease.
And sleep isn't just one big blank state, right? Consumers Research talked about REM and non-REM sleep having different jobs.
Exactly. We cycle through stages. Non-REM sleep is where most physical restoration happens, tissue repair, immune support.
Body maintenance.
Right. Then REM sleep, rapid eye movement. That's when your brain is more active, when you dream. It's vital for memory consolidation, processing emotions, and even brain cleanup. You need both to feel properly rested.
And it's not just total hours, but consistency that matters. Consumers Research emphasized that. Why is a regular schedule so important?
Consistency helps regulate your internal body clock, your circadian rhythm. This clock controls hormone release, your sleep-wake cycle, body temperature, metabolism, tons of stuff.
So messing with the schedule throws everything off?
Pretty much. Even if you get 8 hours, but at totally random times, it can disrupt that rhythm, leading to feeling lousy during the day, worse cognitive function, and potentially increasing risks for health problems long-term.
Technology seems to be stepping in here, too. Consumers Research mentions sleep tracking advancements.
Yeah, wearables, even smartphones are getting better at passive monitoring, tracking movement, heart rate, maybe breathing patterns.
Giving you data on your sleep stages and quality.
Exactly. It can help you spot patterns, see what disrupts your sleep, and maybe make informed changes to your habits.
And workplaces are starting to pay attention. Wellness programs addressing sleep.
Some are, yeah, offering education on sleep hygiene, assessments, maybe tracking tools, trying to raise awareness.
But there are challenges.
Definitely ethical ones around data privacy.
Yeah.
If your employer is collecting sleep data, how is it used? How is it protected? It's a tricky balance between promoting health and respecting privacy.
Finally, Consumers Research pointed to the biology. Why is sleep so critical for our brains?
It's fascinating stuff. Research shows sleep is when the brain clears out metabolic waste products, things like amyloid beta proteins, which are linked to Alzheimer's.
Like a cleanup crew.
Exactly. During deep non-REM sleep, this glymphatic system in the brain kicks into high gear, flushing out this waste. It's essential for maintaining healthy brain function, memory, and possibly reducing long-term risk for neurodegenerative diseases.
Wow. Well, that brings us to the end of another, I think, really packed deep dive. We covered a lot, all pulled from today's Consumers.App podcast, May 20th, 2025.
Yeah, from big economic shifts to how we shop, right down to protein and sleep. It really shows how interconnected everything is.
Totally. We really hope exploring all this has given you some useful insights, maybe a few aha moments. It's a lot to think about.
For sure.
So thinking about everything we touched on the economy, shopping changes, health and diet and sleep, what's the one thing that maybe stands out most to you right now? Something that makes you think about your own daily life a bit differently?
It's a good question to pop.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you found it helpful, please do like and subscribe. We'll be back with more exploration soon.